I think we did. I think
I think
what
we
am I trying to
thunk.
do? I think we thunk the thunker think. Hello and welcome to Chapter 1 of the Ghost Book Archive, a brand new creative writing podcast. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Silver.
Yes, she is. Hey, that's fine. We got it. We got it.
You kind of look like James. You have the
Really?
same purple
My
and
face is
pink.
purple. I'm so red right now. It's so hot in here. Like you're so pale and I'm like red.
Let me just fan you a bit.
Thank you. Like I'm actually like burning here. Like I'm dying.
Burning hot.
That's it.
Okay, let's go.
The Burning Hot Podcast. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Silver.
And every week we're going to be here discussing all manner of things writing. We're going to dive into all sorts of genres. We're going to have guests on here to talk about their work. And we're even going to throw out challenges to you guys, all the listeners. And so you can submit your own stuff and we'll read some of that out on here as well. Today, our very first theme is all about ghosts. And so we're going to start off by going into poems that each of us have prepared. How was that?
You're not, yeah, it was very good, but you're not in middle of the frame. Yeah, that way.
Jesus
You were
Christ.
like, hello.
Hello.
So we were talking about what we were going to have as themes for the poems, and we decided to go with possession.
So the criteria we had here for creating poems is pretty simple. We just told each other we're going to write something short, something not too long, and basically all it was it has to be about the theme of possession. And so I don't know what she's written. She doesn't know what I've written, and we're about to hear that for the first time. We're going to talk about that. We're going to analyze it a little bit, give some feedback, maybe ask some questions about what we meant by certain things.
Yeah.
So we're just going to get right into that. If you would like to go first.
Yes, I'll go first. My poem is called Prolonged Grip, and I'll get right into reading.
You're so good at reading.
No, I'm not. Okay, I'll start now. Crawling to where her subconscious lies, dipping a finger into her eyes, I scratch her ribcage to pieces to get to where she keeps her secrets. I grow underneath her speckled skin, drops of darkness from within, carving cracks into her skull, numbing her mind and making it dull, rattling her bones like an empty can, draining every bit of her lifespan, distorting what she can comprehend, until I become her only friend.
My first reaction reading it was like I love just the little bits of the rhyming. I know it's such a simple thing, but I was like, oh, yours sounds really good. I really like the rhyming. It sounds nice. It's such a simple thing. I'm crap with rhyming. I never rhyme things unless it's by accident. So I'm jealous of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like the dipping a finger into her eyes. All I'm thinking is like someone gouging at my eyeballs with their thumb, and that like made me very uncomfortable for a second there.
Yeah, you don't like the eye stuff.
No, I mean, would you like it if someone stuck their finger in your eye?
It wouldn't be the worst thing to happen. Like I wear contacts, so I stick my fingers in my eyes all the time.
That's different. You're sticking your finger on your eye. This is like sticking a finger
inside. Yeah, well,
yeah, like through your eye. Like,
yeah, okay, I wouldn't like that.
Scratch your ribcage to pieces. It's like a wild animal, like trying to do something insane in there. I like a lot of that. What was so what were you trying to go for? Like, what was your main idea when you started writing this?
Okay, so I was kind of struggling with the poem. I was like, I started with the line, dipping a finger into her eyes, and I was like, okay, that could be a good like possession thing where it's like very like claustrophobic, very like eerie sort of vibe. It took me like a minute to get the rest down, but anyways, yeah, I was going for the sort of like suffocating feeling of something like
you wanted it to feel like it was a person almost drowning in themselves, like out of control, losing control of themselves.
You don't know if it is like someone or something, or if it's themselves doing it. Yeah, more like
They're
a
like being
open.
taken over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more like a vague, vague thing. I like vague poems and vague things.
Yeah, I mean, because
Makes more.
this could very much be like if I read this, I mean, it could be ghosts, but it could also be like some creature or some horrible person like coming up to you like
Mm-hmm,
in the middle of the night and like trying to get inside you somehow, like actually
mm-hmm.
physically grabbing hold of you. Like this could be physical, or it could also be mental. Like there is the
Yeah,
two ways that that could go. So I do see
yeah.
that.
I like being a little vague so people can like imagine things
Hmm.
for themselves.
I think I agree with poetry, especially. I like it when things are open ended or have double
Mm-hmm,
meanings. I think because it means that people can
mm-hmm,
interpret it in different ways themselves. Even though if like you still personally had a main thing that you thought it was, it's
mm-hmm.
still possible for other people to look at it and take maybe something else out of it that someone else might not. And so everyone can
Right.
kind of get a little personalized feel and like take something out of it for themselves.
Thank you.
I think my favorite line, I was going to say the dipping finger into your eyes is a really good one. And it was also I was you were talking earlier about wearing contacts, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, did you get that idea? Like putting contacts in, like every time you put your contacts in, you're actually like putting little ghosts in your eyes. Like, is that how that
Little
works? Like the
ghosts.
contacts are actually little ghost devices. You put them in your eyes, and the
Wow.
ghosts like rearrange how your eyes work, and it helps you see. Like I wouldn't be surprised if that's how that
Or the
works.
context, like you put them in and then they make you see ghosts around you.
I think that's called doing LSD or something.
Put them in.
Yeah.
Can you put things in
I
your
don't think you're supposed
eyes?
to put LSD in your eyes. No, that I think that would be a bad time. Maybe I don't know. Anyway, a
You
lot of
should
good
try
lines
that.
there. Okay. I'll do it if you do. Yeah,
Nah,
we're not doing that.
nah.
Do you have anything else you want to say about this specific poem, or anything you want to explain?
No, I think it's better if people just think about it for
Hmm.
themselves, you know.
Do you have a favorite line that you wrote in the poem? Is there a part that has like a more visceral image to you? Like, is there a part of it that really evokes a certain feeling or a certain image in your mind?
I do like the overall feeling because I like rhyming a lot with my
Mm,
poems. So I usually do two and two. So there's lies, eyes, and
mm-hmm.
pieces, secrets. That's not a full rhyme, but it works, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And skin within, you know. But I do like the dipping a finger into her eyes because that's like the first line I came up with, and I was like, that's a good line, and the rest is just like based
Yeah.
on that basically.
Yeah, I find it hard to look past that line. It is a really good line, and it's one that makes me feel kind of uncomfortable as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
a
that's what
huge
I
round
was
of
going
applause for
for.
that one line. I like that one.
Yay, thank you.
Okay, so because I'm boring and lazy, I did not name my poem like someone did, uh, but I did write a poem. Just be aware that I'm not a master of rhyme like someone. So anyway, here we go. Spirit trembling, desperate to break out. Choice was illusionary. I know better now. Sugar, booze, pleasure, detrimental to mankind. Cravings gripping tight, a relentless battle within. Our gaze misdirected, a world where distractions rule. Phantoms linger at the edge, their howls drowned in silence. Enemies of nature's grace, life to be scored. Nefarious forces creep, no one is watching. Fingers numb with frost, warm sun kissing my skin. I no longer belong to myself, nor even to this world. Dread like no other, invasion of my soul.
Wow.
Very cheery, I know.
No, that was amazing. I really love the depressing vibe,
Yeah.
like the world is going to fucking end.
Yeah. I think I'm good at the depressing vibes for some
Yeah, but
reason.
I really like it. What were you thinking when you wrote this?
This was a weird one. I actually started with I started with the last few lines, and it was actually much longer. So like currently, like most of these lines are maybe just a couple of words or three words.
Mhm.
Originally, most of these were like the two lines were actually together for each of the little stanzas. So it was spirit trembling, desperate to break out was one whole line, whereas now it's two. Like they were a little bit longer, but it just didn't flow quite right. But I
Mm-hmm.
started out with the I no longer belong to myself sort of part, or this world, and the whole dread like no other invasion of my soul. So I started from there, and I kind of almost worked backwards. But I had a whole part in there about cravings and about
Mm-hmm.
sugar and about alcohol and about at one point it says pleasure now, but I had it as entertainment or like media at one point, but I wanted to make it a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more old timely sounding, so I
Mm-hmm.
changed it a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
my idea was kind of to say that, so this like it's vague again, like yours was, and it's like
Yeah.
in one way it's like you're possessed by a ghost. Like a
Mm-hmm.
ghost is coming, it's possessing you. It's taking away your soul, it's taking away your freedom. But at the same time, people in the past, it's like well, any time really, sugar is a craving. Booze, alcohol, pleasure, people crave these things,
Mm-hmm.
and in some ways they're almost possessed by their cravings or possessed by the things that they really want, or the things that
Mm-hmm.
like make them happy in that sort of way. And so I was trying to do like a sort of comparison of those two things, and so that's why I have like the line there: choice was illusionary. I
Mm-hmm.
know better now. And so it's like the idea that, oh, I think choice is illusionary because I can barely control my cravings.
Yeah. Do you usually write from like your own feelings or just in general?
That's a good question, actually. I feel like I do a bit of both, but what I would say is, right, it's always my own feelings, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not feelings I necessarily had. So like when I start writing a poem, I almost take on the feelings. So it's like if
Okay.
I'm writing something really sad, I almost get myself into a really depressing headspace, and like
Yeah.
almost like I try and like almost like method acting or something. Like I'm putting myself
Yeah.
into that little thing. Like I'm trying my best to feel it. I want to feel how it is, and then I
Yeah.
hope that then when I read it, like takes me back to the feelings I had when I was writing it. Like,
Yeah.
so if I write something sad, it doesn't mean I necessarily was sad in life at that time, but I was sad when I was writing it because I put myself in that sad place, if that makes sense. And it's the
Mm-hmm.
same if I'm writing something happy or something else. I think that I'm there. Would you say you do something similar, or?
Sometimes I do. I also write a lot from my own feelings, so
Mm,
I like to write it out. For example, when I'm feeling it.
yeah.
So yeah, but I don't think I force myself to like feel it when I write it.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
mostly
So
just think about maybe my past feelings and how I felt things, but I don't think I feel it in the moment of writing it.
yeah, I was going to ask then. Where I was going to ask, would you say you're like more impulsive when you write things? Like, would you start writing a poem because you're feeling sad? So you'll be like, "Oh, I'm sad. I want to go write this down,"
Yeah.
or is it more that I want to write and then you reflect on, "Well, I was sad, so I'm going to write about that now."
Yeah, both I think
Both.
I do.
Mm-hmm.
It's
That's
easier to
cool.
write when you have some kind of inspiration from something. So I usually, if I experience something or if I feel something, I will uh, think, oh, I need to write this down.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the way you have uh, like you have short paragraphs, like very short, like 2 words,
Mm-hmm.
and that makes the feeling sort of like more intense, more yeah.
More intense. Yeah. I almost said vibrant there. I mean, vibrant's more color, but yeah, I think that
Yeah.
actually kind of fits. But yeah, that's what I was saying as well. When I started writing that, it was like most of the lines were quite long. It
Mm-hmm.
was much more wordy, but I decided to condense it right down because I felt
Yeah.
like when you make it too wordy, as you say, it's
Mm-hmm.
like it almost gets diluted a little bit. And if you can say the same thing in two words as
Mm-hmm.
you could in 5 words, I think it's better to say it in 2 words.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, that's how I was thinking. I wasn't so happy with that poem. It wasn't my favorite. I kind of liked some of
Mm-hmm.
the. I liked the part I have at the end. That was like my favorite couple of lines, just like the
Yeah.
dread like no other part, and I like the invasion of my soul type thing. But aside from
Mm-hmm.
that, it wasn't my favorite thing I've ever written. I was struggling with it a little bit as well. I rewrote it a couple of times. You said you were struggling with the poem too.
Yeah.
Maybe next time when I mean maybe it's just this theme. I heard a meow there. I
Yeah.
heard, is that the meow machine?
Yeah.
Meow machine's
She's
meowing.
been crazy.
Crazy.
Okay, I just want to say I really love your choice of words in this one. All of the words you chose in this seem very on theme and
Mm,
very. It makes you feel things. Like, this is my favorite line. Nefarious forces creep. No one is watching. The last line. Tread like no other. Invasion of my soul. Like you
yeah.
said.
I like the, yeah, as you were saying, like it's all kind of on theme. Like I had the other one there.
Yeah.
It's like the fingers numb with frost,
Hmm.
warm sun kissing my skin. So like the point was like on the inside I'm cold because I'm being taken over by something else, but on the
Yeah.
outside the sun's still hitting me. I'm not cold because of the weather. I'm cold because of my insides are cold.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I did have a little bit of fun with it, but I was struggling. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I
that's
think,
our poems.
yeah, I think I struggled because I already wrote the longer story first.
Hmm.
And then I was like, oh, I've used up all of my creativity for this sort of theme right now. And
Yeah, you kind
then,
of drained yourself.
yeah, but I managed to because I had one good line and I just wrote something based on that, you know?
Yeah, you kind of worked out the
Yeah.
rest using it. I get that.
And I just want to say, nefarious is such a good word.
Nefarious is a good word.
It's
People should
really,
use that word more
it's a
often.
really good word.
You're very nefarious.
Okay.
I hear a cat. She's like, what's she doing?
She's on the toilet.
Oh.
Just wait a second.
I can hear your cat taking a shit. So now we're going to move on to stories. In this last week, we were both set the task of writing some sort of story, approximately 800 words, and it was all to be about befriending. Meow to you too. Meow to you too. So yeah, we were both set the task of writing a little story about befriending an extraordinary ghost. What's so funny? Is it the meowing? Is it me? Is it
No, it's you.
well,
What
okay?
did you say? You said we're both set the task of befriending.
Yeah, we were set the
As if we're
task of befriending
befriending.
a ghost, like personally, like we had to
Yeah.
go out and befriend a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it must have been
Yeah.
easier for you to find the ghost since you've got a cat, and everyone knows like cats can find the ghosts.
True. Yeah.
Whereas I just had to like pretend.
She looks into the void sometimes, and I'm like, what's in
Yeah.
there?
I've got Ben with me all the time. Hi Ben, but that's the best I'm ever gonna get. Anyway, I'm not insane.
Hi Ben.
Yeah, so our stories they were basically titled "Befriending an Extraordinary Ghost," and so I'm going to start. I'm just going to read through this story, then we're going to talk about it a little bit. You'll read through your story, and we'll do the same thing.
Yep.
In all my days, I had never met anyone like him. His skin was laminated with a ghastly grey shine. His hair was essentially a cloud of wool, and his clothes looked to be inseparable from his body. But it was more than that, for his shabby formal wear was just as much a part of him as the broken skin at the corners of his mouth. I only met him the once, and throughout our short-lived evening, he never once spoke a word. I sat with him at my dining table. He was a total stranger. My wife, Margaret, had often criticized my unwillingness to show hospitality to even our closest friends and family. Yet there I was, hosting this thing, a man I knew nothing of. From the first moment I set eyes on him, standing on the other side of the doorway, a foreign feeling washed over me. Guilt consumed me, though I had no idea what I had done to make me feel that way. I was overcome with desperation. I had to relinquish my feelings of guilt, and the only way I knew how was to please this man. I invited him in without consulting my wife, not that she minded. She wound up being even more enamored by him than I was, though she seemed more motivated by carnal lust than by feelings of culpability. Nothing about it made any sense. Even ignoring his strange otherworldly qualities, he was not at all what would be considered a conventionally attractive man. His eyes were droopy, his flat nose was several sizes too short for the rest of his face. He was missing his front teeth, and he had dark spots all over his jaw. If I had to estimate an age, I'd have put him in his late 40s, though he was undoubtedly hard worn for that. When he first reached for the salt, I was sure that his freakish hand would pass right through it. There was a weightlessness to him, and I knew that regardless of what he was not entirely there with us. To my surprise, he not only picked up the salt, but he managed to devour an entire three-course meal. Something I found peculiar was that he did not once drink any liquid. He refused many offers of booze, opting only for a glass of water, which he specifically requested somehow telepathically contain a thick wedge of lime in it. The water sat on the table by his resting wrist for the entire meal. Not once did he even touch the glass. After eating is when things took an even stranger turn. Dinner had not cured me of my guilty conscience, and as Margaret cleared the table, I found myself involuntarily on my knees, weeping. He did not spare me so much as a glance as I began begging for him to forgive me. Margaret returned to the room, immediately bombarding me with questions. I looked up at her, lost and confused. I had just spent the best part of 2 minutes speaking in Latin. I had no idea how. I didn't even know any Latin. I remained where I was. The man got up from his seat, still paying me no mind. He and Margaret left the room together. They did not return for some time, and I did not move. When they came back, they were not the same. I swear his face had changed shape entirely. I should have felt something more than I did, but when I saw Margaret, I felt naught but the faintest tingle in my chest. My wife's skin now shared the same laminated, ghastly shine as his. Her eyes were soulless, and it was as though she no longer understood that I was in the house with them. She was no longer there. The man approached me, still on my knees. He leaned over, placing his hands on my shoulders. His touch was devoid of physical force, though it felt like I was being washed over by an icy storm. One of his hands slipped onto my neck, and he placed a kiss on the side of my head, just above my right ear. Words cascaded through the most inner parts of my mind. Images flashed before my eyes. I saw him, but that's not all. I saw myself. I saw everything, and I saw nothing. Then they were both gone. So was my guilt. All I was left with was a scar where his lips had blessed me. I did not feel sad for my loss, not even for a moment, for despite all that had come and gone, I now knew. He had come from the other side, and I knew that life had no meaning.
Wow, that was incredible.
Was it?
Yeah, I really love that. It's so well written, and like the descriptions of this man is so like vivid in my mind.
Yeah.
Very
He's a
good.
bit.
Very good. He's a freak, but we love that.
Yeah. We do. We
We
love
like freaks.
Yeah.
Like her. Like this
Yeah.
freak right
she
here.
is such a freak, a
Like
little
this
furry freak. The idea, I guess, was that this wasn't just like a normal ghost. This was an extraordinary ghost in the sense that
Yeah.
he wasn't just what you normally expect. He was actually something that was sort of physical, but he sort of wasn't at the same time. He was like in two places, and he also like had some sort of power. Like there was a transformation that took place there. I mean, when you have a meal, so like sharing a meal, it's like a sign of hospitality and it's trust and it's like some sort of ritual that's leading to like there's like a transformation taking place here. And it's like this guy, he's there and he's with his wife and they don't seem to have the happiest marriage, but this guy's coming in, this ghost, this figure, and he's almost like changing this man's life. Like he leaves him with a scar and he's made him see certain things. He's made him have a bit of an existential crisis by the end. And he's given him all these feelings of guilt. The guilt eating away, like the guilt's so strong that like this guy who's normally like, I'm not even going to welcome people into my house, but this guilt he feels is so strong just seeing this guy, this ghost, that like he will do anything to make that guilt go away.
You know, the feelings were very intense and it translated very well, I feel like. And it's like, I was like shocked because it's a very unique concept. And we talked a bit before about when we were writing, and you said you didn't quite like yours. And I was like, when you read it now, I was like very shocked because it's so good.
Yeah, I liked it more after I reread it. So when I was writing it, I didn't like it. Like when I was initially writing the thing, I was like, I don't think this is very good, and I was kind of writing it, and it was I got to the end, and I was like, I finished writing, but I think it's awful. But then I reread it, and I thought, okay, I don't hate it now. I still don't love it, but I'm like, I don't hate it now.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Maybe you're just easy pleased though. You never
No,
know.
no, this is so good. Like, I
Well,
want to
thank
know
you.
more. I want the rest of this story. I want to know what happens to the wife after, like, she, like, kind of resembles him after. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that is obviously as well. It's intentionally vague because I
Yeah,
knew I was only writing that little thing, but yeah.
yeah. No, but this is so good. And again, your choice of words are always so good. I feel like you set the mood very well with your words.
Well, thank you.
I want to know what part in this story is your favorite part.
Which part of the story is my favorite? I like the part where he asks for a glass of water, and
Mm,
he never drinks the glass of water, and but and it's not just that, like they're asking him, do you want booze, and he's like, no, I don't want
yeah.
booze. Do you want coffee? No, I don't want coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you want a glass of water? And he says yes, but he doesn't say yes. I mean, he's not speaking. This is like a telepathic thing, but he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't just say yes, I'll have a glass of water.
Yeah.
He actually says yeah, and put some lime in the water,
Mm-hmm.
and then he still doesn't drink that.
Yeah.
That might be my favorite part.
Yeah. I really want to reread this and notice all the details because that was a very interesting detail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why is he doing that? It doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. Like why did he ask for that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also I think it's probably a fair thing to wonder, what did the main character see? Like he's telling the story and he says he saw things, he saw himself, he saw
Mm-hmm.
everything, he saw nothing. And then suddenly he thought life was meaningless. He didn't even grieve the
Mm-hmm.
loss of his wife. And it's like, so
Yeah.
what did he see? Like what was it the ghost showed
Mm-hmm.
him? Like I think that's a good little mystery as well that leaves you kind of wondering like what happened
Yeah.
there, like
I
what
do
went
love
through his mind,
mysteries.
and what happened in the other room when the ghost
Mm,
and the man's wife left. I mean, they left and they came back and they were different. They were both different. I mean, the
true.
ghost, it says his face changed shape, and his wife, now her skin changed. Like that, there was something that happened in the other room. What happened there? Like there's a few little things like that. It just leaves
Yeah.
you kind of wondering, kind of wanting a little bit more. Like what is going on there?
Yeah. But that's what's good about, especially like horror or ghost stories. It's supposed to be like
Mm-hmm.
exactly like you wrote it. Very
Yeah.
mysterious and intriguing and exciting. Yeah, so I called my story The Ghost Carved Out of Stone. She held a small woven basket with crocuses, lilies, and gardening tools. The damp grass tickled her ankles as she kneeled before an engraved headstone. The purple heather she planted last had already turned brown, the petals dissolving in the earth below. The crux of her grief ensued every spring, as roots rapidly grew and cast vegetation into new-found life, growing around her brother's body as it decomposed quietly and ineluctably. Each breath welcomed the pleasant scent of drenched soil and moss, bringing her just a fragment of solace. She dug in the soil with the little shovel she kept in her basket and smoothed the soil back over the crocus roots. The white lilies were placed in a ceramic pot next to the headstone. She would often sit down on the bench underneath the oak tree, though it was now dewy with rain droplets. The sun sat behind the tall Gothic towers as she wiped her hands clean of dirt. Colored windows reflected light onto the peaks of the stones and mausoleums. She lingered near a most intriguing grave of aged crumbled stone. It was a statue of a man resting on top of a sculpted tomb. She studied the splintered statue, tracing his tranquil hands, which folded in prayer. A sudden chill prickled her skin as mist crept from her feet and up the walls of stone until it had engulfed the sculpture of the man. The drumming of her heart turned deafening was the tangible mist shaped itself after the statue's every crevice. Her limbs turned as stiff as the stone statue she gazed upon as she swore the mist caused movement in the statue's engraved eyelids. It was further shaped until it appeared to be living and breathing. A single indiscernible word made the hairs on her neck stand. The near palpable aura emitting from the mist made her languid. She felt inclined to leave, but a curious blue orb kept her stagnant. The fog sunk into the stone and disappeared. A crackling spectacle ensued, with a tremendous force. The statue began detaching itself from the block of stone. The blood in her veins turned to frost when she registered a resounding groan from the statue. The stones from his limbs crackled like fireworks when he sat upright. Like a convulsing mechanism, he turned his head, eyes gleaming with light. She stumbled backwards with terror-struck eyes, falling over the hem of her dress. "Don't be frightened," it said with a rumbling deep voice that imaginably shook the ground. Her lip quivered, but she said not a word. The moss-covered man moved slowly, gurgling and groaning as his feet hit the ground. "Did you get hurt?" he muttered, fog exiting his mouth as he huffed. With cold, trembling hands, she pushed herself off the ground. She caught a glimpse of humanity in his voice. "How is this possible?" her weak voice sounded through the air. "My body's buried here." She saw the light in his eyes, dark blue and pure. Faded colors took form across the tired, cracked stone, as the mist circled around the gray figure. "I need your help. Please, dig up my body," he said. Her heart sank to the pits of her gut. "You have lived?" she asked, madly horrified by the implications of his words. "Yes, though I cannot rest. Not here." He struggled towards her, his tremendous aura like the coldest of winter storms. As she observed his feeble limbs, she compared him to an infant just learning how to walk, and the initial shock lessened. She had to take her chances to inquire about her brother. Perhaps the spirits could talk to each other, if this was a spirit at all. "If I help you, I will need something in return." His head tilted forward with a crack, orbs staring into her hazel eyes. "What is it that you want?" She turned towards her brother's grave, raising her questions about the afterlife and what it could mean for her only sibling. The man's glowing eyes shimmered, a sorry grunt leaving his gray lips. The conversation was slow, and he spent long finding his words. Her heart keep.
Keeped. Her heart keeped. Keeped. It keeped. I didn't know that hearts could keeped.
The conversation was slow, and he spent long finding his words. Her heart kept on sinking. Ultimately promised to her that he would return and bring back whatever information he could find on her brother. She gleamed with hope again, and immediately began searching for something to dig up the man's carcass. She shoveled until her hands ached, until her yellow dress turned filthy with dirt. By her side was the man, sweeping soil away with his hands of solid stone. The steel blade at last hit a decaying wooden lid, and for the rest of the night she carried out the statue's bitings. The pitch-black sky encircled them, the sole light source being at the cathedral entrance, a light that would carry her through many dark evenings while she lingered on her usual bench near her brother's grave. Her eyes ever fixated on a lifeless statue, anticipating the blue and glimmering mist's return.
The first thing I want to say is I love the way, like I've told you this before when
Mhm.
we've written things outside of this podcast, but
Yeah.
I really like the way you almost make worlds or settings or environments feel very living and breathing. Like I think you do very, very well at describing actual settings
Thank
and
you.
making it feel very visceral, and I feel like I'm there. Like I feel
Mhm.
like I'm there. I feel like I can feel what things
Mhm.
smell like, what I can see, how cold it is. Like you do a very good job at evoking those sort of senses out of
Mhm.
things, I feel. And I've told you that before. And I think this story is no different. I think you've done the same thing again here. I think you're really good at that.
Thank you.
I also really like some of the language you used in here. You used a lot of good words. I'm forgetting where they were now. Yeah, you had a lot of good language in here, like the word ineluctably. I love that word. That's a great word. You don't hear enough. Like
Thank
you had a few just words in there. I was like, they just sound good. They're good words. That's a good quote from me.
Thank you.
Good
Thank you.
words. I felt sorry for that for the woman.
Mhm.
I felt sorry for the woman. From the start, I kind of felt like she was a sad soul. I felt like she
Mhm.
was like really she's going there. She's like seeing her brother's grave and his body and stuff, and it's like I just there was something sad about her that was just. Is this ghost going to help her? Is he not? What was sort of? Did you have like a sort of vision in mind before you started writing this? Like, was there something that, like, what was the first thing you thought of when you started writing this? Like, what was the intention here? Was it like, oh, we're immediately going with this ghost, or were you more starting off with like, oh no, I'm starting off and it's this woman and it's her journey, and then you just kind of came up with a ghost after? Like, how did that come together?
Oh yeah, it was definitely her journey, and I started out with the first line. Like she held a
Mm-hmm.
small Bowen basket with crocuses, lilies, and gardening tools. So I was imagining her at a graveyard first, and I've had like a thought before about like the statues at graveyards. You know, the mausoleums and stuff, and they
Mm-hmm.
have like engravings and stuff, and I
Yeah.
think that's very cool. So I thought I should write something more like ghostly and like turn this statue into something more like ghostly. So we both had like the physical part
Yeah,
in
we
our
did.
story,
Yeah.
actually more like a
Yeah.
physical ghost, but it's actually a ghost.
Yeah, there was like some other sort of manifestation more so than just being a spirit. There was actually like a physical property that brought into it. It was like
Yeah.
when you said there was, where's the part gone? Like, what is it that you want? And I was just starting to think, there was like, is that ghost really going to hold on to his end of the whatever bargains going in here? Like,
Mm,
I'm like, there's
yeah.
something a little bit sinister about that.
Yeah, I wanted to
Um,
keep it kind of open
yeah,
with the ending as well. The ending is like she's kind of just waiting for him to come back.
yeah. She's kind of hoping, and honestly, when I was reading it, I mean, maybe you didn't mean it this way, but like for me, it's like I'm not even convinced she actually believes him. Like I'm not convinced she believes that the ghost's going to help at all. But she's got hope, and it's like that's
Mm.
almost like leans into like why I thought she was kind of really sad. It's like she's so sad, and it's like she's lost her brother, and she's like obviously having a really hard time of it. And it's like, oh, this ghost maybe is not trustworthy, but if there's even the slightest chance, and it's like I can see her a year later probably still sitting there waiting on this ghost that never comes back because this ghost has just played her for a fool.
Right, that's the thought.
Yeah,
I was trying to make it seem like she was there for a long time.
yeah. Yeah, that's the thing I thought immediately. I'm like, I can see this woman. She's just going to be going back there. Like, I don't know how old she was. I don't remember if you mentioned how old she was, but
Nope.
I'm imagining she's like, I don't know, in her 30s or 40s or something. But I'm imagining like 30 years later,
Mm.
she's like a really old woman and she's still coming back to this grave, like
Oh.
hoping that just this ghost's going to come back. Like there's like a innate sadness to like that story. It's kind
Mm.
of tragic. So I kind of like that, and I like the open endedness of it because you could also be a bit more optimistic. You could say, "Ah, the ghost will come back. He's gonna do his thing, and
Mm.
maybe she will have her little happy ending." But
Mm.
um, when you're talking about ghosts and spooky, I think we both kind of leaned into the. There was some,
Dark.
uh, yeah, there was some. I think you were a little bit more optimistic there. I was definitely a bit more
Yeah,
nihilistic and
definitely.
like
Yeah.
everything shit. But
Yeah, mine was more
um,
open to it could be a more happy
yeah,
ending, but it was more mine was more like melancholy maybe, and yours was just like horribly sad, you know?
mine was like existential crisis.
Yeah.
Like
Like
nihilism. It's like nothing matters.
yeah.
Whereas yours, yeah, it's very melancholy in tone. Like the vibes are very like there's something a little sad going here. But yours also has hope. There's a
Yeah,
huge thing
yeah.
of life in there. Like
Yours
you
has
even
like
just like
no
talking
hope.
about the lilies and the flowers and stuff. And yeah, some of the
Mm.
flowers were dying and stuff, and like her dress is getting dirty. But there is all
Dress
the
is getting
sadness. Yeah, but there's still a feeling of hope there. Even
yeah.
if it's only a little bit, there's still like there's a little chance
Yeah.
that things go well. And so sometimes I think
There's a
that's really good
chance.
to have because it means people can still hope for their little happy ending, no matter
Yeah.
how unlikely it is. Is
I'm
there a
usually
part of
like
this?
a big fan of happy endings. I'm like a big fan of happy endings.
Yeah,
Even though I like to write a lot of like more sad or horror-ish type of things.
I feel like it's easier to write. Sorry, I feel like it's harder to write a good happy ending. Like it's easy
Mm.
to write any happy ending. It's like because everyone's happy, blah blah blah. But
Yeah,
I feel like a lot of the time it feels just like so generic when you write happy endings. Or I feel like
true.
I feel like it's hard to write a genuinely good happy ending that doesn't just
fade
cheat
out.
almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, or it doesn't just cheat. I feel like a lot of the time it's like, oh, they beat the villain because of course they have to beat the villain. Whereas I like it
Right.
when they're maybe still scarred a little bit, if they've got scars to
Yeah.
show for the journey,
Yeah.
but yeah, they're still happy in the end, and maybe they've grown. And so I feel like
Yeah.
that's a little bit harder to do. So it's definitely a different skill, I think,
Yeah.
writing
You've
a
said
happy
before that
ending.
when you write, you often like focus on like if there's a battle, you want them to come out of it with like some type of wound or like something to show for that
Hmm.
battle. Um,
Yeah.
or like if they're near death, it's like
I'm impressed you remembered that. I
yeah,
appreciate you remembered I said that. Yeah,
yeah.
I've got a whole thing where I think that um when things happen or a character goes through something, they should have something to show for it. It's one of
Mm-hmm.
my pet peeves when I'm reading something and there's some huge battle and maybe like a bunch of characters who are meaningless die or something, but all your main heroes, they're all entirely fine. And I'm not saying they all need to
Yeah,
die. You don't need to kill people off, but they
right.
should have some scars to show for it. They should
Mm-hmm.
even there should be some sort of growth that comes out of any
Mm-hmm.
situation. I don't
Yeah.
think people should go through dangerous situations or through uh, different difficult situations with and just come out the same on the other side. I feel like it's kind of counterproductive, and I think it takes away from tension and stuff sometimes as well. But
Yeah, I agree.
anyway,
I agree
yeah,
fully. Like something at least, even
yeah,
mentally, as you say. Like I want some description of like what's going on with them, not just like, yay, we won.
yeah, exactly.
That's
Yeah.
it.
So, what was what would you say was your favorite part of this story you wrote? Like, is there a part to you that sticks out? Is there a part in you that, like, when you think back, you're like, oh, I really liked what I did here?
I like the initial descriptions of the statue and her like
Mm.
finding it. Like she lingered near a most intriguing grave of aged and crumbled stone. It was a statue of a man resting on top of a sculpted tomb. Things like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's like back to what I said earlier. You do that sort of thing really well. I think there's a bunch of stuff like that you had in here. There was a part it was about flowers had died or something. That one I think it
Yeah.
was it near the start,
Mhm.
but and the one about that may have actually been the same line, and it was about her brother's body as well. Where is it? Oh yeah, here it is. The purple heather she planted last had already turned brown, their petals dissolving in the earth below. Yeah, I think like you do a lot of those descriptions very well. Um,
Thank you.
because I kind of struggle with that sometimes, so I'm always impressed when other people do that so well.
Thank
Like
you.
another one here as well. Like each breath welcomed the pleasant scent of drenched in soil and moss, bringing her a fragment of solace. Like I thought that was a really beautiful description.
Yeah.
Um,
I like to kind of rotate my descriptions of things. So I do kind of like sometimes it's like maybe a noise, or then it's like something you see or smell or feel,
mhm.
like touch. So you
Yeah,
kind of rotate
yeah,
those
you're very much
feelings.
showing all the senses. You're like feeling, touch, smell, sound. You're in there with all of them. That's why that's why that makes sense. Like I do feel all the senses. That's why I was saying like I feel like oh I'm there. I'm really picturing that scene you wrote.
That makes me happy.
And
That's exactly what I'm
yeah,
trying to do. So,
yeah.
um, yeah,
So what
makes
you're
me
doing
happy.
is working. Yeah.
Yay.
So
I think you're
so
also very good at descriptions, but you focus maybe on other types of descriptions, and it makes me feel like
yeah,
different. Yours are more like urgent, and you are it's more exciting,
dramatic.
dramatic. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
dramatic or very deathly, like very dark. I
yeah,
think. I think mine are. I tend to have a lot of descriptions that are very internal, like people
mm-hmm,
having some sort of crisis. Like I think I'm quite good at that, like talking about someone's going insane in their mind, like or like
yeah,
they're feeling extreme dread. Like I do that, whereas I feel
yeah,
like you're really good at doing sort of the external environment, which is kind of weird considering like we're both quite internal people, but you're really good at actually doing the descriptions of
yeah.
external things as well.
Thank you.
James Charles, right next to your head.
He doesn't look like James Charles.
He looks just like James Charles.
He kind of does. He kind of does.
It's kind of creepy that you have James Charles in your living room. I wouldn't be happy with that. Put him in a little box. I want you to fucking microwave him.
Oh my
Please.
god.
Microwave.
So we're going to do a writing game, and we we have a cat. So we're going to do a writing game where we write a poem with 4 lines, and we're coming up with one word each that we have to either use in the little poem or like be inspired by. We're going to do 2 rounds and set a 5-minute timer each round.
And so if you want to join in as well, feel free to set your own timer, pause the episode, write your own little thing. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave it as a comment on the YouTube video. If not, you can join our Discord server, share your results there with us.
Okay, first we gotta say our words. We have one word each. Let's go. Mine is pale.
Pale. So the words are okay. You're using pale. I'm saying fear.
Okay.
So pale and fear.
Pale and fear.
Those kind of go together.
Mhm.
That's good. All right. Timer is ready.
Ah.
Go. And I will not say distracting things to bother you, since it's not a competition. But the cat might. The cat will be like, meow, meow.
I'm already distracted, man.
Distracted man. Okay. This is... You can go first this time.
Okay.
That was... How do you feel that went?
At first, I could not find a thought in my head at all. So I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to write anything. And then I kind of like forced myself. I was like, rhymes, 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 you know. And I managed to write something. If it's good, questionable.
Okay, right. Go for it.
Okay. The dimly lit room induced a creeping fear. Under my pillow, a spirit unclear. As the pale walls inched closer, the air felt grosser.
The dimly lit room induced a creeping fear. I feel like yours is kind of the same as mine in the sense that how mine ended up, which we're going to get to, is I feel like very disjointed.
Yeah.
Like I feel like a lot of it is just we wrote sentences. I'm not sure how well they go together.
We wrote four lines.
No, yours isn't that bad because you're talking about a dimly lit room and just a creeping fear under your pillow. It's very unclear. So it's a bedroom. I'm imagining a bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
There's a pillow, pale wall. Okay, yours is better than mine in that sense because you're okay. I've got it now. It's like a bedroom wall. It's closing in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I've got it. I'm not sure about your final line. The air felt grosser.
Yeah, that was what I was
that's the
struggling
one
with.
throwing me off.
Yeah,
that was the one.
That's
throwing
why
me
I laughed.
Off.
That's why I laughed because I was scrambling for a rhyme, and that's why sometimes rhyming might not be the best.
Yeah, I usually try and avoid rhymes because I'm crap at it. But yeah, the last line was just throwing me off. I do like. I always think the pale walls. I like that. I like how you used pale there with the walls. That's a pretty good way to use the walls. An inch closer. Used a lot, but I think it's always a good way of like creating a sense.
Yeah, I was scrambling for the rhyme.
And I like the bit about the pillow, the pillow spirit. I'd say your middle 2 lines are better than the beginning and end.
Yeah,
lines.
I agree. Yeah. I much agree. Okay, should we read yours?
Yeah, okay. She was terrified of the dark. The contrast between him and her was stark. Her malevolent mother had her locked away. Pale of skin was how she'd always stay. Mine actually sounded better when I read it out.
Yeah, it was good.
It actually had a good flow to it, didn't it?
It did.
I thought it was awful, but I read it. It actually had a good, had a good flow.
You rhymed. Good job.
Yeah. I thought, I was writing that and I'm like, this is atrocious. I was like, this, my mind was all over the place. My intention here, I was writing, I had the idea that I wanted it to be someone had pale skin because they had been locked away, like they hadn't seen daylight. And I was what I was going to do, I didn't really manage to do it or get it across, but I wanted to, like, this person was scared of the dark because they've been locked in the dark all their life, and they're terrified because they've been raised in the dark because someone's locked them away, and they come out of there and they're pale of skin because they've been locked away, and so they've got that fear, and there's the paleness.
There's a
and
lot
so then I also kind of threw in a person, and that I didn't really have enough space, but I was like talking, she was with some guy, and he was like, just because the contrast, obviously, like the color of their skin and whatever. But,
there's a lot of like interpretation you could think about for yourself.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
It read well though.
Yeah, it did read well. I
Mhm.
thought I didn't like it when I just read it in my head, but when I read it out loud, I was like, actually, I
Mhm.
like it now. It just sometimes when you hear something, it can change your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's neither of the two of our best work.
No, but again, we wrote it in 5 minutes, so that's our
True. I think when we've done
excuse.
these in the past, we usually actually have
Those,
longer,
yeah,
don't we?
we've had
We don't usually limit it to 4 lines either. We normally
no,
just go as long as you
and
want.
also we've used maybe 8 minutes, I think, 7 or 8.
Yeah, 7. Yeah. And to be fair, we're doing this at the end of like we've been talking for 2 hours already.
Yeah,
So
my brain is kind of fried right now.
yeah, so it is a little bit more difficult doing it this way.
But also, you
But
you you came back with a very good use of words.
yeah,
I like the word malevolent. Is that how you say it? Malevolent.
yeah, malevolent.
Yeah.
Yeah. We always learn from these things as well. Like I feel
Mhm.
like the more of these sort of things you do, like obviously the time makes it harder to make something good.
Yeah.
But when you get used to having the time and get used to having
Yeah.
the pressure, you start thinking a different way. And I think for me, a lot of the time when you do these little things, it's more maybe about just choosing one thing to focus on. Like you were there, you were like, I really want to focus on rhymes.
Yeah.
But I feel like you maybe were focusing too much on rhymes,
Yep.
which actually made you end up not having the greatest rhymes.
Yeah.
Like I think you were too caught up trying to do the rhymes.
Yeah. I think so too, definitely.
Yeah.
I do like yours though, but the thing with the contrast between him and her was stark. That's kind of confusing. And then her mother is there. Yeah. Just bringing in the mother is good though, but
that's why I said that like I felt like both of ours were kind of disjointed because your last line, your air felt grosser. I felt like it was a bit off. I don't know. I mean, it is kind of connected. It just felt like different. And then also my line of the contrast between him and her was stark. It feels like it's not quite as connected.
For mine, it feels like it ended like
it ended
strangely and like on a like too fast.
Yeah, whereas the rest of it's all like longer lines, and then suddenly you're just like the air felt grosser. It was kind of Where in mine it was like I just threw in some random comments. The contrast between him and her, and it's like, who is him and her? What are we talking about there? It's like it just was a little bit off. Anyway, it wasn't wasn't our best, but it also wasn't. I don't think it's our worst either.
No, I've done worse.
Okay, so we're doing a second round of this now. Our words this time. My word, I'm choosing haunting, and your word is
skeletal.
Skeletal.
Yep.
Good word. All right. So we are setting our timer again. And again, for anyone listening, feel free to do the same thing. And we are going now. I'm doing what I accused you of last time and like focus too much on the rhyming.
Okay. I'm not rhyming this time, just to mix it up.
We're going opposite ways. Okay, so initial feelings. How are you feeling about that one? How'd you think that went?
Better, sort of, than last time. I was kind of not sure how good it was at first. It's still not the best, but I think it's better than I thought it would be.
Okay. I think for me, it was like, I thought it was starting off better, but by the time it ended, I was like, this is atrocious. I think this is a car crash.
Oh no.
I'll start first this time since you did last time.
I'm excited to hear then.
All right. So, get on my speaking voice. Ben. Yeah. Ben's. I was asking Ben for some help at his ghost demons, but yeah. The boniest man in all the land. His haunting features were dry like sand. His skeletal presence caused quite the stir, but not one would oust him, not even Lady.
Okay, I loved all of it.
The last line. Yeah, the last line was atrocious. I was like, how do I end this? And I was like, what if I just thought of a new character and just called her
Lady
something
Fur.
stupid that rhymed. I was like, Lady Tur, Lady Dur,
No,
Lady
this
Cur.
could be
I was like,
actually very cool if you had like a theme of like a lot of weird names or something, or just like a longer thing, because this is too short,
yeah.
and ending it on Lady Fur, it's like,
Yeah,
it's so
this would have been
obvious.
better if it was longer. Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
would be, but I
I
really
yeah,
love the first three lines. I was like,
I
how
liked how
did
it
you
was
think
starting.
this was awful? I was like, whoa. And then the last line came and I was like,
Yeah,
whoa.
and I'm just imagining like I was imagining Lady Fur, and for some
Lady
reason I'm
Fur.
imagining this really big lady like draped in animal furs,
Damn.
and like then there's this man who's this bony man who's like a skeleton,
Hmm.
and I'm like imagine like everyone was scared of him, but then there was this woman who was the opposite with him. I don't know why I'm thinking fur, but that was just
Hmm.
because fur was the
Yeah.
name. But it was like she's draped in fur. I don't know. I had this weird image in my head, but yeah, that was my car crash. Let me hear yours.
The body was skeletal and I'm too dizzy or weird in my head right now for this. Okay. The body was skeletal and festering, though time had not let it begin decomposing yet. The haunting seemed to have killed him long before he took his last breath.
Yeah, the second line was it was a mouthful. That was
Yeah.
your problem there. Like, you couldn't say it. You were like, I can't say this. It was a bit of a mouthful, but it is eerie. I think you've
Yeah.
got some feelings in there. Like you've got like the general vibes. I think you're on point with the vibes, like the feelings. I think you've got the right words in there. I think the issue is just maybe more the structure.
Yeah, the structure
Um,
kind of
yeah,
shaky.
but
Kind of
you
shaky.
have like festering, such a great word, skeletal and festering. Like you used that really well. Decomposing, you kept on with the festering theme, so that was a good word to use as well. Haunting seemed to have killed him long before he took his last breath. La- last line maybe a little underwhelming, but
Yeah.
again, actually, I would say your I like your first and third line. I think your second one's a bit too wordy,
Hmm.
and the last one a little underwhelming, much like mine.
Hmm.
But your first and third lines were good,
Thank you.
and you've
I
got I
agree.
think your vibes are on point. You've got the
You
vibes. It's
also
just
got the
maybe
vibes.
if you had more time, I think like
Yeah, I would
you
have
would have restructured that a
fixed
little
that
bit.
up.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, your line though, the boniest man in the land. I kind of love that.
Yeah,
So,
that was my. I just had this like I know you went the death route like
mm.
that was kind of like I kind of expect you to go there, but I was like I was just really I don't want to go the death route, and so I thought, oh,
Mm.
what if it was just like a really bony man? I'm
Mhm.
imagining like this cool dude, but he's not really
Cool
cool. He's like
dude.
a menace. He's causing a
Cool dude.
stir. He's a menace. He's like out there. He's like I don't know, probably
Dry
hitting
like
people in the
sand.
streets, and
I do
he's
love that as
drunk
well.
and he's a menace. He's a
No.
shithead. All he drinks
Mm.
is like cider or beer or something. He doesn't actually eat food.
Yeah, you
He
always
lives
have
on
this sort of
liquids.
like witty kind of vibe to your stories, and I really like like
Hmm.
the characters always feel like such cool people, or like
I'm not sure
funny,
they're
or
always
like
cool.
they're
Yeah.
intriguing. I mean, they're
Mhm.
very intriguing. You make them seem very,
Yeah.
very intriguing.
I feel that's how I feel about your environments. Like that's I
Hmm.
think that's what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about like a lot of things I do it tends to be like things that are maybe internal
Hmm.
descriptions. And so I think maybe I do like
Yeah,
intriguing people,
you
whereas I think
do.
you do very good at intriguing places. You do very good at intriguing we did one before, obviously not in the podcast, but we did one months ago. I remember you wrote about this little house in the poem or the story, and I remember it just you were talking about just things creaking and the inner works of the pipes, and just the way you were describing it. I remember just thinking, oh, I feel like I'm there, and it's very eerie and it's very creepy. And so like I think you bring a lot of life and a lot of intrigue into like objects or like these things around you that you're sensing, back to like the senses you were talking about, like the smell and the touch and the taste and the sound. And I think you do really good at that sort of thing. Whereas I
Thank
think
you.
maybe what you're saying is like I'm maybe good at just
Yeah,
making something a little bit quirky or weird and making like a person, like the
yeah.
personality of a person. Because where I've always struggled, and people have told me before, is like oftentimes I'll struggle with like describing scenes. Like people are like, okay, that's a cool character, but
Hmm.
you said he was sitting at a table, and it's like all I said was table. It's like they don't know if it's wooden, they don't know what anything actually looks like. I
Mm.
just like I was almost skipped past those little details just to talk about the person.
No, but like
Um,
it depends on
yeah,
what you want to focus on as well. And I feel like with
true.
you, um, it's just very like I always want to read more, sort of, and that's like
Mm,
the best thing. Even with your Lady Fur, I'm like, who's that? You know,
Who's Lady Fur?
who's Lady Fur?
I want a whole story about Lady Fur.
I do.
That's
Like,
the
Lady
next
Fur.
challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Lady Fur is the title. Write about Lady Fur. That's great.
Jesus. No, but yeah,
Yeah.
you do have also very like internal descriptions of feelings and like thoughts. I feel like you write thoughts very well.
Hmm.
Not in this last thing because there were
Wow,
no
you're saying my thoughts there were terrible?
there are no
No.
thoughts.
Yeah. Maybe I don't have thoughts.
Yeah, understandable.
But I think yeah, that one was I think that round was better. That was better than the first round. I think we
Yeah,
got into the swing of it there. Much better.
yeah, it was better. Thank you for watching. We've had a great time trying to write something about ghosts and possession, and the game was very fun, even though we kind of stumbled a bit.
Stumbled. We're expert walkers. We never stumble.
Okay, yeah.
So if anyone wants to, again, as we've said many, many times, if you want to submit your own work, you want to try any of the things we have, like the challenge specifically, or maybe even like the story or the poem we were doing earlier, if you want to do those things, share them, or read our things for yourself in depth rather than just listening to us speak them out, you can see all of that in our Discord server. We will link it down below. We're just trying to build a little community of writers, people who are into writing whatever it is, whether you be writing stories, poems, screenplays, plays, whatever it is you're interested in writing, speeches, anything, just everything writing, and just we hope it can be a place where people can just communicate with one another, maybe share with one another, learn from one another, like get some help and advice, and even if it's not that, even just socialize and make nice little connections and stuff as well. And hopefully, we can continue this podcast and we can grow a nice little thing.
Also, people who just like stories or like to
Yeah.
read.
Yeah, you don't need to be a writer. You can just be someone who likes to read other people's writing and see people improve and help people improve as well. And
Yeah,
some people just like to observe.
I'd love some feedback as well, like what you guys think about our
Yeah, of course.
stories. If there's something you would like to see next time, or if you wanna.
Yeah, like if there's specific themes that like we this week we did ghosts, and so like if there's another theme that anyone has a suggestion, those are things that you can definitely let us know. Let us know any sort of themes you'd like to see on this, or even other writing challenges. Like we just done one there. It was choose words, and we wrote little quick poems. I mean, there's lots of different challenges. I have a few in mind, but it's like I'm sure there's things I've not thought of, things that no one's thought of. I mean, there's unlimited potential here. So I think we did.
I think
What
we
am I trying to do?
think.
I think we thunk the thunker think. The meow machine stopped.
Yeah, she got tired, like me.
She stopped. She got tired. Yeah. You don't look tired. You look so vibrant and awake.
Mm-hmm. I believe that.
Yeah.
I always look tired.
Thank you for watching and tuning. Oh fuck. Okay, you can do the outro.
Yeah.
Since my camera died, you can do an outro. Just thanks for tuning in and tune in next week.
Thanks for watching this journey of writing with us, and I hope you will be back to watch us next time. Bye.
Meow.